The tree of liberty has been thirsty for too long. I am the spark, the powder, the match, the shot that rang, the line in the patch. I am the night they tossed the tea, the oath they swore to die free. You can chain my hands, you can break my bones, but you'll never own my soul. I am the fire in the midnight sky, the reason tyrants die. I am 1776, lightning, thunder, iron, and grit. Every musket, every fist. I am 1776. Oh, 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 oh. I am 1776. I am the flag they tried to burn, the shot that made the empire turn. I am the rebel, the Minuteman, the ink that wrote we can. We hold these truths, hear my boots on the cobblestone, hear my war cry, shake the throne, hear my drum, you know it's near, your reign of fear ends here. I am 1776, lightning, thunder, iron, and grit, every musket, every fist. I am 1776. Oh, 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 oh. I am 1776.
Good morning. It's Thursday. Where's George? Oh, well, I'm going to wait till he comes back and sits in his chair before I bring him on. So anyways, I hope everybody's not frozen to death yet. This cold temperature just keeps getting worse and worse and worse all over the place. And then another storm's coming this weekend on the East Coast for all you over there. Good morning, George.
Good morning, everybody. What happened?
What happened? I don't know. I went and looked and you were gone after the promo came out.
Oh.
So Alex, how was your chair? So we got a really good guest today, Cathi Chamberlain. She wrote Rules for Deplorables and Rules for RINOS. She'll be here at 9 o'clock. So it'll be George and I at 8:30, and Sean, he might be here and he might not. He had to have a procedure done today, so we'll see if he shows up.
Also, she did the book about rules of Alinsky too, about exactly what's happening now too. She did.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to have her talk. We're going to do trivia tomorrow, so you guys don't get all upset and everything, but we don't want to cut her off, between 9:45 and 10 o'clock, because she's going to be here for the full hour. So that way she has more information and we won't fool around. So we'll do it tomorrow and give the answer tomorrow. How's that?
Very good. Did
I cover everything?
What happened?
I said, did I cover everything?
You did it right.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me open up with a prayer then and we can get going. So, well, it's actually a Bible verse, so we'll leave it at that. So, is a lamp brought in to be put under a bushel or under a bed? For there is nothing hid except to be made manifest. And that's Mark 4:21-22. But then to follow it up, it's do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, be strong and courageous. And that's Joshua 10:25. So that's trying to give us a little bit of hope here. So we may see some arrests and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. You did a whole bunch of arrests. You did 21 arrests of Talarangua in Colorado. But yeah, it's not who we want to be arrested. It's everybody else getting arrested, but who we want to be arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's terrible. But I mean, they're picking the low hanging fruit right now, so they're getting some people, but it's not what we want to see. We want the big names going, so that's what I think.
Everybody got big man. Anyway,
I think-
here's a great message. This was posted by Jim Morsh. I like to get him on. He's a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and he was in fact, he was in the Pentagon when the plane hit on 9/11. But this is a very good post that he put up, which is true because as we discussed about this, you gonna put that up or you looking?
Yeah, I'm putting it up.
It says here, let's set the record straight. Somalia didn't figure out how to scam the system. It was the Democrats showed them how to scam the system. That's how they set it up. Meanwhile, Democrats are sitting back and getting kickbacks. Because this is true, because we know the IQ of the Somalians were 68, which is below normal. So this fits right into the purpose of how this thing was created. So far it's up to 19 million.
Yeah, but the thing too is Blue Cross, the NGOs and some of the corporations are helping them set it up. So they're getting kickbacks. But Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota was holding seminars for the Somalians on how to open up the daycares and how to open up different healthcare facilities like the home care, the medical transportation, and hospice. So they were complicit in it. So that takes you right back to RICO again too.
And then there were 2 buildings that they were renting out with the address saying they were healthcare facilities, and they weren't. They would just put the address down. They were getting monies. And the whole thing is on that main strip, there was a gas station there that was owned by a Somalian. So this thing is getting deeper than it is. But I just wish I thought the agreement that the conversation that Walz and Fry had with Trump was to remedy these protesters and give them all the illegals that committed crime that are in jail and stuff, and that didn't happen. So Tom Homan's going to have a meeting with them today, and we're going to see, because the governor was on a talk show and he said, "Well, I got set up by saying what I said," and so that man, I'm telling you, ain't going to be no deal made for him. He's going to be done. And yeah, but
yeah, especially Frey. I mean, because to come out and say that he's absolutely not going to cooperate and everything, that right there tells you that he's incriminating himself, because anything he says, they're going to use it against him and everything too. So I hope he keeps going on and making press conferences and talks his little ass off, because the more he talks, the worse he's going to get in deeper too. But I still go back to when he was eating the Somali food.
I think of that all the time. It's very hard for me anything with chopped meat in it now.
Yeah. I know that was so gross, but it's like, where are the bodies? Where are they?
Well, they need the bodies for the simple reason is because they got to keep the checks coming in.
Mm-hmm.
They're stupid, and it's unbelievable for, like we said about them, because they're the way they get married, brother, sister, and whatever the hell they do, and their IQs are very low. How do they beat the system like that? They had to be trained.
Mm-hmm. Blue Cross. I've seen the training material from Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Mm-hmm.
They had it.
Look what they did. They trained them and everything else, but who approved them to have that done? It had to be done by the governor. The governor had to know. All the people. What happens to the congressmen and women that are in there? Well, we know about the woman because of the Omar. Oh, by the way, let's see if I got that one.
Do you hear about Amy Klobuchar's going to run for governor in Minnesota?
We know. I know.
I hope they bring up her eating salad with that comb, because that'll just show that she's crazy. I mean, who does that? I would just ask for a fork.
Well, we all know about some kind of substance was drawn at Omar, and look what happened. They didn't show you the ending result. It was holy water.
I need to address this assembly today.
Let's play that again.
opportunity to address this assembly today.
Uh, that holy water gets them all the time. Either that or a piece of pork. I would throw a piece of bacon. That would be good.
I've seen a video too during the week. A guy, somebody threw a Koran on the ground in Minneapolis, and it had bacon in between the pages. And one of the Somalis picked it up and was going like that with it, and then realized there was bacon and started throwing it, and everything was.
Well, there's that thing, that video out that this guy told the Muslims they were eating turkey bacon, and then he says, "Oh my God, I mixed up the packages," and you see them spitting out, wanted to kill the guy and everything. Chased him all around the pool and everything. So
I think it's funny.
Well,
we were talking about like how many people are coming out in the streets and everything. I want to show this because this guy makes a really good point.
I yelled. I knew exactly how to get a company mad. I knew how to bring attention to my union. This is me, union organizer, agitator, paid. So I know a little bit about this. When the buses start coming in, it's because they're paid. When they have signs already made, this was already determined in a meeting room. The money has to get cleared. That's how you get it done. I went into buildings. I yelled. I knew exactly how to get a company mad. I knew how to bring attention to my union and to bring attention negatively to the people that I was picketing. I was a pro at this. I won awards for this. What I'm seeing out on the streets is paid protesting, but they're doing one thing different than I did. My picture was in Midtown Manhattan's precinct, on the wall. So when I threw a rally, they came and said, "Hey, cue ball, we know it's you. Don't start no trouble." And you know what I never did? I never started trouble. I made noise, but I didn't test the cops. That doesn't make me a wimp. I'll take any of these people on the protest in Minnesota, any one of them one-on-one. It made me smart. Because the risk has to be worth the reward, and I was taught that by one of the best union organizers in New York City. To me, attacking a police officer was not a reward that was worth the risk.
well, because you're the wrong color, they would have let you go right away. But because you were white, they would have kept you in jail. That's the thing. But
Yeah, he made a good point though. It just shows you that these guys are paid agitators, and their whole purpose is to risk themselves if they're thrown in them. Like this guy, he's not jumping in front. He said they're not jumping in front of vehicles or antagonizing the police or anything like that. So everything in Minnesota is just a whole different ball of wax there.
yeah, well, look at all the videos that are coming out about the guy that they shot in Minnesota with all that. The guy had a gun, and they said, "Oh, how peaceful it is." The fake news media, that he was an innocent person. He was just there for the protesting, and he was a nurse, and then he was into nature and camping, and they put all the pictures up. But what a wonderful guy it is! But one of the videos was on Ed's show.
This is a moment the filmed on January 3rd, showing a man who appears to be Alex interacting with federal immigration agents 11 days before Border Patrol shot and killed him. Our footage was analyzed by the BBC, whose facial recognition technology confirmed his identity to a 97% degree of accuracy. On the morning of January 13th, our team received a tip that federal agents were blocking a street at the corner of East 36 and Park Avenue in Minneapolis. We arrived around 10:50 a.m. We saw observers shouting at the agents as they walked back to their vehicles. When they started driving away, the man kicked their taillight and got out of the
Unbelievable. Of course, that does not fit the left's narrative of what Pretty was up to in the days and moments before he died. But again,
Oh, that's it. Okay. You're muted.
I don't understand. Every time the videos were nice and clear. I think it's the what do you call them? The way it's going through StreamYard when I'm sending it, putting it down here, and then it goes through StreamYard to you, because it starts breaking up the videos for some reason.
I use Clipchamp and then edit them afterwards, so it comes out at 720. But it doesn't matter. But This guy was like, he had busted, didn't he have, he had busted rib from this altercation
Yeah.
prior to what he did before he got shot. So it's just crazy. And but like they said, the narrative, oh, he's such a compassionate person. But then I read too where he was working at, they had trouble with him that he wasn't being nice to the patients and everything. So what's with these healthcare people lately that are just like so nasty? Like the lady that got her, the nurse that got her license pulled in Florida. So
Mhm.
you know,
Well, you have
it's
to be
like,
afraid now to go to the hospital, the doctors, the nurses. I mean, you can't. You know, if I go in there wear the shirt like this, if they're anti-Trump, they could kill you. I mean, they take an oath not to do that. You know, when the nursing and the doctors. You got a guy said, well, the the anesthesiologist says, well, we'll lower the anesthesia so he'll feel pain as he's going through the surgery. And that happened to me once. Did I tell you that? They
mhm.
gave me they were doing surgery on my knee or someplace. Yeah. And then what happened was I could still hear them talking. And I did all that I could to move my foot on my leg so they could see that I was still awake. But I would have felt the whole surgery because of the anesthesia, which they can do because they're the ones that regulate you going into that mode. So it's very dangerous. You don't know. You actually don't know. I would like to share this clip here. President Trump was at a diner. Let me finish the story. Don't put it up yet. President Trump was at the diner, and this guy stopped President Trump and asked Trump to pray for him. You want to play this? I think it's very.
Oh,
It's
no, I
un-
can play it. Okay.
well, I gotta explain it for you.
Above all kings, above all nature and all created things.
Not a nice president.
Hmm. I want to go back to the nurse thing though. They all take Hippocratic oath to first do no harm. And there, some people, they said Judge Napolitano said that they had no right to take away her license. Yes, they did,
Well,
because that's an ethical violation on your behavior. And if you make a complaint to the licensing board for something like that, they do investigate it, and they will strip your license for that. They'll do the same thing for a lawyer. If a lawyer violates their ethics like that and you make a complaint, the bar investigates you. They'll take away your license. The state has every right to do that. So Napolitano's wrong. He's wrong. I mean, anybody in nursing knows that you're not supposed to do anything like that ever, especially publicly.
my niece is a doctor. She turned around and said, that these things that they do with the kids about the transgender stuff and all that stuff and everything, it's actually there could be a complaint because they're actually mutilating a child,
Hmm.
and they should be losing their license because they shouldn't be doing it. That's the problem. She said, and they take an oath to protect the life.
Hmm.
Now you got to worry about. Look how many doctors that I hate to say it, but there's plenty of Alibabas in the church, in the hospitals and stuff. You don't
Hmm.
know. You just don't know.
It goes back to COVID. That's why a lot of doctors should have lost their license during COVID, because what the Hippocratic Oath is, first do no harm. And if they were aware of any of that, of what the ramifications were to begin with, and on top of it being an emergency use authorization shot, they should have never been giving it. If
I'm gonna do
that's my opinion, but I'll stick by that one.
I'm gonna get a tattoo saying pig's blood, done in pig's blood, so they'll leave me alone. That's what I'm gonna do.
Hmm. Well, I don't know. There's so many people in healthcare. If it was me and I was going in for a procedure or anything, I wouldn't have any of my political beliefs known.
Yeah, but that's how
Ever.
they come into this country on their perception that the doctors, then they have to go for that test so they can be certified in America. But that's how a lot of them
Mhm.
come in here because of it. Especially the Indian doctors too. The same thing. They all come here because of their qualifications. And my niece had to go to Grenada, yeah, Grenada to learn, and then she was there when they did the rescue. Believe it or not. So
Yeah.
that's how. But they had an American citizen has to go out of country to become a doctor and then come back and then finish their stuff and everything else, which they just come in here and they don't have to do that. So
Well, a lot of what I would be careful of is, I'm going to say, would be like the VA hospitals. A lot of them, they're good. You'll get a good doctor, but a lot of them are just paying off their medical debt. And so what they do is they sign up in like rural areas, VA hospitals, stuff like that. They do 2 years and then they're gone. So when you're getting a doctor from overseas, a lot of them, they might go. So let me put it this way. They'll go to the state that has the easiest licensing regulations or the easiest test, because they have to retest to practice in the States. So they'll do that. So that doesn't mean you're being a DEI doctor like that. You're not getting really high quality care. You're getting somebody that might have passed the bare minimum and able to be able to practice in the United States. And that's why I filter out who I would go to. But I mean, there's big exceptions to the rule, but I'm just saying generally.
Yeah, well, Patty M says that when she tries not to wear political shirts when she goes to the VA, thank you for your service. Besides, but will wear my freedom shirt. I went. I usually go visit. Used to go visit Brett's in the house. Or I used to take him there. And one time I went to Orlando. They had the LGBTQ flag. They had the Juneteenth flag, and the PLA flag was outside, and so was the American flag, but it wasn't inside the VA in Orlando. Isn't that something? No.
Yeah. Like over here, the VA hospital Lafayette, on Memorial Day, that you go past there, and that's a real long drive. They have flags on both sides of the drive and everything. So I think the one over here, I've never heard anything bad about the one over here.
Usually when you're in a red state, it's just that in Orlando, it's all liberal tots in Orlando. Orlando, right? Because you got Disney World there, you got all the people that work, and then they come in there, and you have to see it's unbelievable the way they have it set up. The one in Tampa is pretty good, but it's up to whoever's in charge of the hospital. That's the problem.
Well, USN is even saying the VA is full of DEI hires from Biden. Yeah, I agree with that. There's a lot of that, and then there's a lot of them paying off their debt. So you're not really getting. That's why there's a lot of problems in the VA hospitals. You know, you come.
Big drug busting did. They used to do the opioids to the veterans, giving them the medication, and everything, and then they used to cuff half of it, and they used to sell it in the street. That's the first term that when Trump was in president, he broke that whole thing up. You know, and that's why he fired a lot of them. Remember, they couldn't get fired and stuff. So
it's terrible because
the VA still has problems. I mean, the people like this guy I know, one of my presidents for New Hampshire, he's having a hard time with the VA hospital. It's letting a lot of people down. It's amazing. I mean, these guys over there served their life and everything else, sacrificed themselves to come back, and then they can't get the service that they deserve.
You know what a lot of it is? A lot of it's psychiatric, but a lot of it is the pain care too, because of the federal laws on opioids and everything. You don't have, they're saying everybody that is in intense pain is an addict, and it's not true. So if you're truly in pain, you won't become addicted to the opioids, and they will not give a lot of those vets adequate pain care, and that contributes to the suicide rate too.
Well,
because
finish. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say you can't live a productive life when you're in chronic pain like that. And look how many came back that way from being maimed and everything. And I don't think they're getting adequate care. And I think you can be a patient advocate. You should be your own patient advocate. What?
I said, let me get into the story. What's happening with the veterans. Remember the number used to be 22 veterans committing suicide a day. Then when Trump got in, it went down to 17. When Biden came in, the numbers started to creep up, and it went up to 44 veterans committing suicide a day, especially what happened to Afghanistan. Of all the turmoil that happened there, how many people are committing suicide, especially that only fact. All the people that, their friends died and everything else, why were they there? And especially how that was all pulled out. So a lot of them are suffering, and people don't realize how many. That's why it's important if you see a veteran, try to talk to them. If they're alone or something like that in a coffee shop, sit down and talk to them for a few minutes. And so if they need help, give me a number and talk to them. We do that a lot. So we don't just we don't put pictures up and do that stuff either. You know, we do it because we have to do it. PTSD is really bad news. Not good. They used to call it uh, mental fatigue when they used to was what do you call it? World War II, Korean War, and everything else. And she was looking up in the air. Okay. Did you choke on your soda?
No,
Go ahead.
when you're done, I'll finish my thought about the opioids.
Hey, go ahead. Now you can talk about your point. Oh boy.
I just want to say that's what's contributing to a lot of the suicide, because they're not getting adequate pain care. And so what I was going to say is, if you want to be a patient advocate for veterans, write your senators and write your congressmen and just keep it up. Write Dr. Oz. He'd be one. He would be really good with something like that. But they have to have the attention brought to it that they're not getting that in the psychiatric care also, because that's a big problem. But if you're going to need psychiatric care if you're in chronic pain, and they won't control your pain. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, World War One was still shell shock. That's right. Think about what all these things, but it's still PTSD, no matter which way you look at it. They didn't classify it right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew somebody that went to Vietnam like that. When they came back, they were bad.
Yeah, well, that was a whole thing that the fake news media destroyed the people coming out. People came in. That's why with the colleges and everything, protesting, spitting at the guys when they used to come back from war. That's another story. I don't want to get into that. It's 8:57. So if you want,
Yeah, I know. What?
No, I'm saying that it's fine. I'm just talking about.
Yeah.
Just talking about a whole bunch of stuff. They got a lot of videos to do, so we got to do that tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, the opioid thing is so important for veterans, so I just don't understand it. But now they're using psychedelics, and they're finding out that seems to work a lot too for a lot of people. So they say, I hope that Oz does do some more, and so what RFK is already saying that they're going to be doing peer-reviewed studies on psychedelics for pain control and psychiatric issues with veterans. So that's really important. And
They had so many things like in these hospitals that were taken away during the Biden administration. They actually had a Humvee all set up, a simulation of a Humvee, and they would have the soldiers sitting there with all these wires on them and monitor them, because I saw it, and to see how they would react when the explosions would happen and everything else, because you can't, they wouldn't explain until they register and see all these signals, and that program was taken away, which I saw the thing and I thought it was very good. It was excellent the way they did it. This doctor in psychology came out with the idea, but they knocked that down, which I thought was very good about that. So.
okay, somebody Sin's asking about THC for pain control. Yeah, they're doing that too. They're doing that. There's peer-reviewed studies on that. So when you see, what is it, Siegel on Fox come out and say, oh, there's no benefit to it and everything, he's talking out of his ass. He really is. You can go into the NIH database and you can find them. They're doing it, but they're using it mostly like the psychedelics on the veterans and everything to treat the PTSD. And it's working. It's working because it changes when they do the stimulus and they do the psychedelic at the same time, it'll re-trigger some of the brain cells. So you're getting more of a hit of dopamine and your endorphins go up. And so you're not getting the fight or flight with it. So it's a really good thing for them. So, and a couple treatments of that and it rewires your brain. So it's really important that people pay attention to that kind of stuff. It could help a lot of people.
Today's news, Tom Homan is supposed to be with the two morons in Minnesota. So let's see how that turns out. See what happens with that one. I can't wait for that to happen. But they arrested 60 people in Minnesota. Well, Minneapolis, really. They arrested 60 agitators, say, and done that. So let's see if Tom Homan gets his wish about getting these people out of jail and sending them back where they were supposed to go. But I think what happened was when they interviewed Borgio there, or Gino, about what he would do with the illegals. He said, "I send them all back." So I think that hit a nerve. I think a lot of stuff was said, and I think President Trump didn't really know about it, and they made it um, an issue because they're worried about the budget being passed and all the shit that's going to happen soon. So they're worried about a shutdown. This is all a game that was done. With
Kathy's here.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Introduce her. I'm fine.
Morning, Kathy.
Good morning.
Hi,
It's
Kat.
great. Hey, Godfather. It's so good to see you
How you
again.
doing? Good, good.
It's
How you
great. Good,
doing?
Trixie. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
I'm excited to be on your show, Godfather. It's been a while. So
Yeah. Well, I told people about you, about what would you be perfect for this to get on the show because of everything that's happened in Minneapolis and Minnesota, Minneapolis, and throughout the country, especially
excuse me.
Democratic control states. So, and I told them about your first book that you wrote, which I couldn't find. I have it here, but
It's all filtering
Yeah,
down
well,
now.
oh yeah.
I wrote that 6 years ago, and now everything's exploding out of it. So thanks for thinking of me. Yes.
Well, you could speak about how all the books and everything, exactly what's happening into this country now with Zelensky's playbook and all that other stuff that's going on.
No,
Can I say something just real quick? Just so you know, when you see me turning sideways, I'm not ignoring what you're saying. I'm listening, but I'm interacting with the chat at the same time.
I figured as much. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Trixie. Yeah, so it's hard to believe that back in 1970, a book was written that is so instrumental in what is unfolding today. And that book was called Rules for Radicals. You can see it in the background there. And Rules for Radicals was written by a big leftist named Saul Alinsky. Many of your listeners, I'm sure, are familiar with him, but he basically wrote this book to contain 13 tactics to be used by what he called community organizers. And that's probably a familiar term for a lot of people, too, who lived through the disastrous years of Barack Obama. Because he was actually a student of community organizing. And that's how all this is kind of unfolding. But community organizing was a way to galvanize militant type of followers to all do the same thing so that they could affect change in our structures in America and bring them down, basically, is what the whole plan was. But these 13 tactics are incredibly important. I'll just give your audience one example to get an idea of it, which is I always use tactic number 5 because that's so common that we see happening, especially against our president, against us, against conservatives, and that is ridicule is man's most potent weapon. So when you hear the left calling our president a sexist or xenophobe or homophobe or whatever, these are intentional name calling to try to convince the rest of the world that that's what he is. They figure if they repeat it enough times, people will believe it. And Alinsky had a name for those people, and that was useful idiots. But his book is very well known as the Bible of the left. And he literally dedicated his Bible to what he called the most effective rebel ever in the history of the world. And that was Lucifer. So that gives you an idea of where his mindset was. But this book, believe it or not, I don't know if you even know this, George, but back in the day when Hillary Clinton was in the State Department, was our state, she actually, I should say, sent over thousands and thousands of copies of this book anytime there was a color revolution in like the Eastern European countries, especially. by the tons in ships, and that was paid for by George Soros. So, you know, that's really shocking, but that kind of gives you an idea of how powerful this book is to train people on the ground on how to topple governments even, and the way they organize and the way they get on the ground. I'm talking Antifa, every kind of demonstration that we see put forward in organized fashion, it's usually by these community organizers, and the whole concept that Saul Alinsky taught. Hillary Clinton actually wrote her thesis, her college thesis, on Saul Alinsky himself from Wesleyan College, which I understand is still under lock and key. You can't even see it. So it would be interesting to see what it was she wrote at the time. But that's I read this book back in the day when I was a flaming liberal, which a lot of people are shocked at because I'm such a big activist these days in conservative values and in the MAGA movement itself. But back in California, I lived there for about 15 years, and I had moved there after growing up in a military family, and we settled pretty much when my dad retired. I was only a teenager at that time, but this was in Alexandria, Virginia, so in the DC area. And my dad was so strict, I couldn't get away from him fast enough. And I wish I could take back those days now, but he was a Vietnam War veteran. I heard you talking about that before I came on, and he was a helicopter pilot. But he was so strict with us. I was a real rebel, and so I found myself in California getting incredibly indoctrinated by the left, and Rules for Radicals was pretty much, and still is, required reading almost for leftists. So I was very familiar with that book. And once I met H. Ross Perot, believe it or not, that's what started straightening out my head again, as did most people, because he just made so much sense with his whiteboards and his philosophy, right? So then I started migrating to the independent. I turned independent, switched my party from Democrat to independent. That was back in the early 90s. And so I remained an independent for many, many years, and eventually ended up moving to Florida, which is where I currently reside. And I had been, kind of going back and forth whether to join the Republican Party, but it just seemed like they had so many disagreements within that party too. I really hesitated until I fell in love with another man, which of course we all know as Donald J. Trump. And that's what got me to switch parties to become a Republican. And that of course was 2015. And ever since, I've never looked, I knew right away that he was the only one who could get us out of the mess that the Alinsky tactics had created in our country. But one thing that I do really try to wake people up to, along with Saul Alinsky, is a couple that fewer people know about, Richard Cloward and Frances Fox Piven, otherwise known as Cloward Piven.
Yeah.
Right? You've heard of them. And they were all, by the way, they were all really mixed in with the Weather Underground, and, they were all responsible for Kent State. It all started really back then. So we're seeing a lot of that repeat today. So I became actually here in Florida, and I've been here for about 30 years. So I consider myself a Floridian at this point, but I became a certified licensed building contractor back in the day here in Florida. And I started up the nation's first all-female construction company with the pink pickup trucks and everything. I called it Tool Timing Baby Dolls. But
I remember that.
We did a lot of fabulous work, and we were very much into remodeling and got into construction, heavy construction quite a bit, drywalling, all that stuff, framing. So one day,
Women were in bikinis, right? Didn't you say the women were working in bikinis?
no, as a matter of fact, I had a rule because some of the younger girls, I had about 19 employees, females on my employee list, but on payroll. But one of the girls, I drove by a job site one day, and she had these work pants on, and they were real low in the back, and I could see a string, underwear, and I called her in off the job site, and no, that didn't work with me. So we were very conservative. And we did a lot of fundraising around the area here in Pinellas County for really good charitable causes. And but anyway, so that's kind of what brings me into the transition on how I ended up writing my book, Rules for Deplorables, which is counter to Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. And that's because one day I was up on a ladder. This was after Hurricane Irma hit here in Florida, if you all remember. That was 2017. And I was going around inspecting roofs to get people new roofs on. And I was 10 feet up when my roof took a slide to the left, and I fell backwards on a concrete slab. And I ended up breaking my back in a couple places and both of my wrists. And the doctor said, that's it, no more construction. So I had to put everything down. And I then wondered what the heck I was going to do. Well, while I was recovering in the hospital and then in a rehabilitation center, I ended up thinking back, because I was watching news all day long, right? That's all there was really to do. And I'm a news person. And I was watching the treatment of our president. And all of a sudden I realized they're using Alinsky tactics against him and against conservatives. And I understood then that most conservatives really didn't understand that that's what was being foisted upon him, because they were starting to regurgitate a lot of the stuff that the left was saying, falling right into that trap. And just to give you an example, chapter 8 in my book, and I'll get a little bit more into my book if you'd like, but chapter 8, and I start off each one of my chapters with one of Alinsky's tactics, because I think they're so important to understand. And then I use current events to help people understand how they're being used on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
So each chapter correlates with one of Alinsky's tactics. So chapter 8 is on the tactic. And this one's a really funny one, because if you remember back in the day when Trump was tweeting so much,
Yeah.
well, he still does, but and I loved it because I knew that was the kind of pressure he needed to keep on, because tactic number 8 is keep the pressure on.
Mhm.
And you don't let up ever, ever, ever. We kind of are seeing that a little bit today in Minneapolis, right? Where he has pulled back a little bit and people are wondering, well, is that part of his strategy? Which I believe it is. Or is that because he's acquiescing and capitulating? And so keep the pressure on. You never let up. Alinsky had this great saying, as a matter of fact. He said, when you're confronting your enemy, you hit them really hard below the belt, and you never, ever, ever say you're sorry. See, that's something conservatives have a real problem with. They don't like hitting the belt, and they apologize and they pull back. But that's not how the left plays the game. And we have to understand that. So my chapter 8 is called Trick or Tweet. And it's all about his tweeting. And I actually go into a psychological dive into Trump's tweeting and how it is psychologically really exactly what he needed to be doing for the country, and still does need to be doing. But if you remember back then, Trixie, he was actually, we heard so many even conservatives say, oh, geez, I wish he wouldn't tweet so much.
Yeah, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning when he was up,
Well, those are his working times, just because they're not ours. So that's how I ended up writing rules for deplorables, because I was so familiar with the tactics that to me it was just second nature, and but it wasn't for most people. And so I really wanted to wake the conservatives up to what was going on. And then one thing people tell me about my book is that they've read a lot about Alinsky. Lots of books have been written about him, but never before have they read a book that intertwined him with Cloward Piven strategies, because they wrote a series of strategy papers, all designed to destroy our country, to implode our systems. And the way they did it almost in every case, I'll just give you an example that applies today big time. Well, they wrote their biggest strategy paper was on welfare, to throw as many bodies on welfare, whether they needed the money or not, didn't matter, because the idea was to implode that system so nobody could use it anymore. It would go bankrupt.
Cathi, we have a question in the chat. It says, it's from Red Ginger. I'd love to hear from Cathi about what to do now on the ground locally.
I will get to that, but I'm going to say this right now, just to get it up front in the podcast, in case anybody stops listening after a period of time. I am a solutions-driven person, and I don't just do the doom and gloom thing and tell you how bad things are out there. I want everybody to get involved, and I'm a big activist. And I co-founded a group. Not a group, because the last thing we need is another group, another club, right? We're clubbed to death. But this is a solution. This is a coalition here in Florida. Now, if you're in a different state, obviously you can start your own somewhere else. But the whole idea behind American Patriot Executive Committee, that's APEC, is to coalesce all the MAGA groups together under one umbrella, because our weakness is that we're so spread out and we don't operate together. We have to start becoming more united like the left does. And so when I created this group in July of last year, the concept was to get us all thinking together and helping one another from different counties. So we have now about 150 members from about 35 different counties, George, and it's growing really fast here in Florida. Yeah. And the whole premise of it is to bind together so that we can help America First candidates, because we're so outspent. We don't have the money. The other side has the money. The RINOS have the money, and they keep putting RINOS up for us, even in local races. And so we have to present our own candidates, MAGA and America First. Oh, I just thought of a new concept, MAGA First. A new term. So that's what I'm doing. That's what we're doing. And we have an unbelievable group of patriots, because who is the most active grassroots in our movement? It's the MAGA people, right? We're the on the ground grassroots. We're the ones who show up at the flag waving and do all of the canvassing for election integrity and all that stuff. Our Republican Party here in Florida, the RPOF, doesn't really push Republican members of the local Republican executive committees. And folks, if you don't know what that is, that's the command and control center really in your counties. And I urge you to go and check them out, because that's where the directives are given. That's where the candidates are chosen. And so if you have an REC locally that is not America First and is very establishment, then those are the kind of candidates that you're going to be getting. And another thing we're doing at APEC is we are exposing the RINOs amongst us, because I have been asked by many of my supporters to write a sequel to my Rules for Deplorables book. Now, if you want a real good history of Alinsky and Cloward Piven, you want to read my first book for sure, because I really go more into depth on that there. But if you want to find out about how the Republican Party is being divided by the establishment and the RINOs within our party, because I believed back when I wrote my first book that the left and the Dems were the biggest enemy, and they were. Today, our biggest divider, our biggest enemy is the RINO.
What do you think about the Uniparty?
Well, I do address that in my sequel, Rules for RINOs. Alinsky Tactics to Fight Republicans in Name Only. That's the subtitle of my second book. And I take the reader through my book from when a candidate first, actually, I start with the history of the Republican Party, which is really interesting. Even I learned so much when I researched for that first chapter. Back in the Jefferson days, and it was actually called the Democrat Republican Party. It was combined. So we go from back then with everybody together to now with everybody together. And then I take the reader through how a candidate will move through the ranks. Well, when they first run for office, all we hear is all the great stuff we want to hear.
Yeah.
Right. And then they get into becoming part of the establishment. And that's where we really have to have our eyes and ears open, because if they start talking like the establishment and regurgitating those kind of facts, that's not the person we want in office, because that's what's gotten us into trouble to begin with. The next chapter gets into how they become elitists, how they start making all this money. And then we become very second class to them. And then the next chapter is the Uniparty. And I define all of these different phases and get into how did the Uniparty, because we have right now, the whole Democrat Party has been captured. We know that by the CCP, the Communist Party, Chinese Communist Party, and by the left, by the Marxists. They're gone. And we're dwindling down to less than half of the Republican Party now that we can even remotely count on to make the right decisions. It's really hard to watch. And then I take the reader into the next phases, which usually gets into the deep state and the shadow government. Does anybody know the difference between the two? I define them and break those down. It gets into reading like a spy novel, actually. That's what we're living.
Yeah. It's interesting when you start getting into the difference between the deep state and the shadow government, with the ties from overseas and everything. I really get into that.
Yeah, exactly. And to answer, to wrap up the question from the viewer, I'd like to say this. Today, and this is one of the reasons I was really happy George reached out to me to talk, is because today we happen to have our second APEC's second press conference going on down in Manatee County. That's Bradenton, Palmetto area, for those who don't know. We need everybody to show up there. George, did you make a copy of that flyer that you can pull up for me, or no?
Yeah, send it to me. Send it to me, and I can put it on.
Okay. Do you want me to text it, email it?
No,
what?
Email it. You can email it.
Yeah, I figured. Of course. And I meant to pull this up myself, and it looks like my phone just did an update where now my photos don't look the same anymore. I'll find that as we talk. But what we're doing, we had an original press conference back on February 7th, November 7th. And in that press conference, we met outside of the RPOF. For those who don't know, that's the Republican Party of Florida. And what the RPOF is they cover the whole state. There are leaders, our Republican leaders. George, I can't get it on there because it's on a hard drive.
Is it on your Facebook page or is it on?
I don't. They kicked me off of Facebook years ago.
No, I know, I saw it. But no,
Badge of honor for that.
What's that?
Badge of honor for getting kicked off of Facebook.
What's the name of the organization? Is it on that page there?
You know what? Yeah, pull up the website. It's apecunited.com. And that's perfect because people can do that at home as well. apecunited.com. And then drop down menu is event or events. You see that?
Hold on, APC. What was that again? I'm sorry. I should have wrote it down.
Here, I got it on the banner. I just made the banner for it.
Okay.
United.com.
Okay. I'll find it.
Yeah. And on that website, you'll see events. And the first thing you pull up is going to show you the press release that we sent out about it, as well as the flyer. Now, our first event was in front of the RPOF Quarterly. And the whole purpose of that one was to we had about 11 speakers from 9 different counties representing how the RPOF has kicked them out of the Republican Party. And these are incredibly valuable, hard-hitting grassroots volunteers in these counties, and I'm one of them. They literally, when they found out about my second book, Rules for RINOS, they filed 4 grievances against me and suspended me from the party. And
wow.
This is what they're doing all over the state. So when you get that pulled up, folks, you can also see a tab for petitions. And we created that so that if anybody out there has been kicked out or purged from the Republican Party, and think about it, this is when Trump needs his base here in Florida the most. This is his home state. That's what they're doing, is they shut down an entire REC in Manatee in 2024. And that's how I kind of got wrapped up into this, because I ended up interviewing a bunch of the Patriots down there in Manatee County when I found out their whole REC had been shut down by our RPOF. And this isn't by the left. It's not by the Democrats. Mm-hmm. It's from our own Republican leadership. It's insane.
Yeah, they're sabotaging everything that MAGA stands for. But I wanted to ask you a question. If people in different states and everything, would they be able to start their own chapter of that in their state if they don't have one, if there's nothing affiliated with them? Would they be able to do that from that site? Because like Indiana, I know there's so many RINOs, like with the redistricting, we had problems with that, where they went against.
Absolutely. It just takes one person. I mean, I just thought of the idea. I spoke at an event, or just go to an event and start passing out sign-up sheets. Say, hey, we're thinking about starting a coalition. Call it a coalition, because everybody's clubbed to death, right? And I know this is happening in other states, because I have just been asked to partner with Rhino Removal Project. Are you familiar with them?
No.
Okay, go look for Rhino Removal Project on Twitter, on X, and join them because they're nationwide. And they have X spaces all the time from different states that are experiencing the same thing. And you'll be able then to put your efforts together with people from your own state. there. So they're reaching out to different states, and they just reached out to me because they found out what we're doing here. And so they're going to help us in many
There's
ways.
the flyer. Okay. There's the flyer.
Yes. Can you? Oh, thank you. Now, here's what happened to us here. So we ended up, our first press conference was so successful. We live streamed it, everything, and we got a lot of interest from that.
Okay.
A lot of people reaching out saying, hey, this has happened to us over here in this county and over here. So then we found out that the RPOF was putting on a huge event. They're calling it the Trump Day Dinner. Sounds familiar? Reagan Day Dinner. They hide behind the MAGA thing to make themselves look really like the America Firsters, but folks, they are not. It's so disgusting.
Yep.
And so they invited Lara Trump to this Trump Day dinner, which is this evening. That's why this is so timely. If anybody can make it, please come out and join us at 4 p.m. here in Bradenton Area Convention Center at 1 Haven Boulevard, Haben Boulevard in Palmetto at 4 p.m. Our press conference will start at 5. So essentially what they've done, George and Trixie, think about it. They shut down an REC that was MAGA majority.
I remember that one, yeah.
That were doing fabulous work. They were getting America First candidates to beat the RPOF establishment candidates who were all about land development and messing up everybody's land. I mean, that's the big thing here in Florida. And so we found out Lara was speaking at this, and we thought that is the worst of the worst. They are using her to rebuild their REC, which they got rid of about 150 MAGA members. And now they have a skeleton crew of about 15 establishment hand-picked executive board members. And this is what they're doing to rebuild the bank account. Actually, they commandeered the $90,000 the MAGA people in that REC had collected through their hard work. The RPOF commandeered it, and that's the Florida GOP. A lot of states call it something different, but so everybody is on the same page. Every state has a GOP at the top of their state. That's who we're talking about. Our Florida GOP did this to MAGA.
What about when we showed up at that other place? The cops were told we were Antifa. Remember? About us being Antifa at that place where the RPF was having their meeting at that hotel.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited that you asked this. Okay. So they literally told the sheriff before we got there that Antifa was going to show up. So they needed to really watch out for us. So when we all showed up, about 150 Patriots gathered there. That was November 7th. We found 3 cop cars there, deputy cars. And we walked over to them. Fortunately, we had a retired deputy amongst us, so he did all the talking. And we found out that the RPOF, this is what they told us, the RPOF had called them to warn them Antifa was going to show up at that corner. Right. So they knew because they saw our flyers all over. And so we laughed and we said to the officers, hey, we're the MAGA arm of the party, not them. They're the RINOS. And you know what was so funny? The deputies knew exactly what we were talking about. And they started laughing. They said, okay, we're out of here. So we were given full. Now, the same thing has happened down at this particular venue. Word has gotten back to us that somebody called the sheriff and told them that a group was going to be forming that was anti-ICE. So we don't know what's going to happen, but we have talked directly to the sheriff down there. And from what we understand, they know we're not anti-ICE. So, but these tactics are the same tactics the left or the Dems we can expect from them. which is now we know the RINOs are using that's why I decided in my sequel to devote it all to what I believe is enemy number one today, because Trump can't get his agenda even done because of what? Not the left, not the Democrats.
Yes, the RINOs, yep.
It's the RINOs. So folks, we have to call them out. We have to name and shame them. Evan Power is the chairman of our RPOF here, our Florida GOP. Bill Helmick is the executive director. These are bullies. And I don't know if I told you this, George, but after they found out that I wrote my book, I think I did mention this, but they wrote 4 grievances against me. You want to hear what the grievances were? First, one was an attack on my First Amendment rights. Because they quoted me from a speech that I had given last summer. And in that speech, I said, we don't just have RINOs in Washington, D.C. We have them right here in Florida in our own backyards. Yep. And they took that quote and they said in grievance number 1, I have divisive rhetoric. Well, you bet I'm going to call them out when they are doing the things that they're doing, but that doesn't make me the divisive one. They're the dividers in this, and we have got to get them out of the leadership roles. The second grievance was based on my having an affiliation with Defend Florida here, and many of our Floridians listening in will know that's a grassroots organization. I happened to be the ambassador of Florida for even to this day, but since the beginning. And Defend Florida was the only group, grassroots here in Florida, that really delved heavily into election integrity after the stolen election of 2020. So they thought, and this was a quote from their grievance, that I was fraudulently trying to say that the election of 2020 was stolen.
Right,
back to that again.
Yeah, we showed up at the hotel where the Dominion machine and Cinemtech was. Remember that hotel we stayed at? Not stayed at, but we protested. We were in front of there. The supervisory of elections. The supervisory elections had the meeting. Right? We showed up there.
Yes. The FSC, you're talking about Tampa when I had the purple finger.
That's right. Vote. I was there with you. It came with a bunch of bikers.
I forgot about that. The purple, I called that rally the purple finger voting movement rally.
Right.
Because, and we all had to dip our fingers in purple and hold them up like in Afghanistan where they're so proud to vote. That's how they don't cheat. They dip their fingers in purple ink that doesn't come off all day.
I think it's a good idea. I wouldn't mind giving my fingerprint for something like that.
And then Florida was the first state to try to get Trump off of the ballot because we got plenty of Trump haters in Florida.
And who did that? The Florida GOP.
Yep, that's right.
They put that up to vote, and if it wasn't for MAGA all, showing up at that hotel and really keeping the pressure on to not do that, he may not have been on the ballot in his own home state. Folks, this is a real problem. People think Florida is the gold standard because our Florida GOP leadership keep touting that and trying to convince the whole world that we are. But in Defend Florida, when a bunch of us went out canvassing to find out if our voter rolls were as pristine as the leadership was telling us, we found out on average with 35 counties in our 67 county state, found out on average 20% of our voter rolls were susceptible to being fraudulently used. That'll steal an election quick, but nobody would listen to us. We thought when we went to the supervisor of elections, to the secretary of state, to our legislators with our findings, they would thank us for all our hard work. No, they put a target on our back and we became the conspiracy theorists. We have to change this narrative as soon as possible because the primaries, which are the most important, more people should show up at the primaries literally than the elections, right?
Yep, we had
Because-
67,000 registered voters here, and only 4,800 people voted for the primary.
It's
And
it's
you
it's
know, and then the rhino gets
disgraceful.
in, and that was it.
You know what I say? I don't say conspiracy theorist anymore. I say we're conspiracy realists.
I like that, and that's exactly the truth. These
I'm
primaries.
hated too, Kathy.
What?
You know I'm hated, right?
Oh yeah, George has a target on his. When we go out together, they can't miss a target. But the primaries, folks, that's really where you decide between the Rhino establishment and the America Firster. So if you want to stop this cycle of rhinos getting in office to hamstring President Trump or to destroy our own backyards, you better wake up to the primaries. I think they're August. They're in August. What date are they? Do you know, George? 18th,
No.
I think.
Sounds familiar. Sounds familiar, that date, but yeah, it's August. But the whole thing is, this is not only happening in this state. This is happening to a lot of states. And
Every state. I don't know one state that's not happening, and I do speak, national where there's national.
Look at Georgia. Look at spend California. Now with about the redistricting in Indiana, 22 rhinos Republican voted against redistricting. I mean,
Yeah, but why? Why? Because of Pence and Young. Todd Young, he's a rhino, and then Mike Pence has still got influence in the state of Indiana.
President too, it ain't happening.
Yes.
I can see that piece of shit get in there.
He threw us under the bus completely.
Yep.
And
I was there I heard the whole meeting and everything else. I'll tell you that. I got to tell you that story. I was there. I told him on here that they had the meeting and he agreed to it in Trump Towers with a bunch of people in there. And then he told the TSP, was it Turning Point USA on January 2nd. He says, wait till they hear us in the Capitol. They'll hear us at the Capitol. And what happened was his campaign manager told him, if you do that and accept the challenge of the votes and you want to run for president, you're not going to have the backing of the deep state, put it that way. And that's why he turned around.
Sellout.
Yep. It's all true. And the meeting he had it with Trump, not with Trump, but he had it with a couple of people, I don't want to say the names now, but they were up at the Trump International at the meeting, and he agreed to accept the challenge.
Yeah,
Even Cruz was there.
That's the kind of cowardice that
The
Trump.
one that owned, what was the name of the guy that owned? I told you, Trix, the one I told you about that owned that store that sold a lot of stuff. That thing. What the hell's his name?
Up in New York, you're talking about?
No, the one that had the one of these like home goods and stuff like that. What was his name?
The guy from Byrne. Patrick Byrne.
Oh, Patrick
Byrne. Yeah, he was in that meeting with Ted Cruz and everything else. And he was part of he was big part with about the voting, the integrity about the voting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they got a lot of money in there.
He was a problem, you're saying?
No. He was for them doing about the challenge.
100%.
Had the meeting with him and everything with money. It was a whole big thing about with the money and stuff.
Yeah, and then they set him up. Remember, they set him up with.
I was at January 6th. I was there, and I was doing a lot of podcasts back then, step by step. The whole way with everybody who was involved. But
the Supreme Court, the front of the Supreme Court on the 5th, the 4th, we did that.
Yes.
So
it wasn't until the last minute that anybody really knew for sure what Pence was going to do.
Yep.
Because he kept leading us on like,
it was all agreed upon. It was all agreed upon, Kathy. It was all everything was agreed upon. Now that's what they're worried about Venezuela, because of the machines. All the data and information is there, and that's what
absolutely 100%.
Yeah, well, that's why then they begged Georgia now, right? 357,000 votes.
Well, Fulton County, we've got some really positive stuff coming out of there. Let's just hope the FBI is not going, it's so hard to trust anything happening anymore, because
I agree.
is the FBI going to do the right thing here, folks? let's just, we got to keep the pressure on.
There's too many. They got to clean house. There's all leftovers from Biden. Look what happened with what's his name. Sorry, getting off the track. But what do you call Vance's Secret Service guy? He was a Biden voter, and he started telling everybody where Vance was going to go.
Yes.
That's
How
what I'm
is
saying.
this happening? I mean, what do you think of Pam Bondi, George?
Really?
Yes, really.
Nah.
I think most of us here.
She was a Bush person. You know that, right? And she was
yes. Oh, yeah.
She was a Bush person. Plus, she was pissed
Jeb
off at
Bush,
Trump
especially.
because she wasn't picked the first time as the Attorney General. She thought she had that job as the Attorney General the first time President Trump won.
Yeah, yes.
Look what they did to General Flynn. They stuck it up his behind too.
Yeah, exactly.
Never supposed to be the VP.
I think most of us here in Florida really cringed when she was nominated, and so what we believed has come true. And she's just very weak and very bought. A big time establishment, and so I don't know that we can.
I don't know. I don't know if Trump's keeping up because to bring out all the heads of the RINOS out. All the deep state people out because who she's associated with. So I don't know if that's part of his plan to keep it there so he can see who tries to fight for her all the time.
To expose them.
I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know.
Well, and he's in a real pickle. I mean, we're far into this now, and he's got somebody there that if he replaces, who's going to be approved? He can't even get his nominations through. It's so frustrating.
Well, that's what happened in August, right? The recess appointments.
Yes.
Toon and Johnson stayed behind with the gavel as long as they did it a minute a day. Trump couldn't pick out his recess appointments. He had 151 to do.
That was the dirtiest trick in the book. I mean, who knew that was coming out of their house?
I like to go to their house. I swear. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, but hey, folks, to put this in a positive perspective, there isn't a whole lot we individually can do to change all this frustration that we're talking about up in Washington, D.C. But there is a whole lot we can do in our own backyards that will affect us no matter, we're hoping for the best turnout with Trump's presidency. And I have a very positive attitude, but I'm also preparing for the worst because our own backyards are incredibly important. If things go sideways and you see what's happening in blue cities. Now, our St. Petersburg downtown here in Pinellas County has a blue mayor. Miami, the Florida GOP just allowed, they basically
that's right. Yep.
The Miami that had a Republican mayor for 30 years, right, George? And that's down near Trump's Mar-a-Lago. That is now they had a special election just a couple months ago. Now they have a Mamdani. Oh yeah, let's not forget New York. So here's what they're doing. And Tampa now, I'm just getting word.
I got the picture. I got the picture right there. Put that up. Trex, put that
what
picture.
What picture?
The picture of this guy here that put Trump in the seat where Kennedy is. And his name is Kalami Alibaba there, mayor candidate for Tampa, Florida.
And he's running for mayor. So look at the destruction Mayor Fry has done in Minneapolis against MAGA, right? And against ICE. So now imagine that comes to your hometown, that you have a blue city. I personally will think twice before going into any blue cities again, because if you are caught just doing that one tiny little thing, you know, driving down the road with your windows down and there's a law against it, you will spend the rest of your life in their jails if you're MAGA. So we have got to ensure that everything in our hometowns is tightened up, that we have the right sheriffs that are not going to shut us down with the next pandemic, for example, and force masks on us and put us in camps to sequester us.
That's what I believe. I believe that's what's going to happen if the Dems ever get back in power. It's going to be a purge of us. That's going to be it.
They're telling us that.
Yeah, they're going to do it. Yeah, that's what they said. They announced it very proudly. that when they come back, they're going to prosecute everybody.
That's right.
They're going to
Yeah.
bring the J6s back, everything else. That reckon that should have died. Everybody prayed for him to save him from cancer, and he survived. That was the devil's work. I tell you that much. He should have died.
Yeah.
I don't wish that on anybody, but what a piece of shit he was.
So the point is, you have to start getting busy. Don't fall asleep just because you think Trump has it under control. He doesn't. He needs our help. He has it under control on a national and international level, and I feel very good about what I'm seeing with the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and the United Nations, all that stuff. I'm really thrilled to see what he's doing on that stage. But he can't possibly help Pinellas County, Florida, or your county. And so it really is up to us. And back to the APEC coalition, this is why it's so important to gather your MAGA groups from around your state and unite them under one umbrella, because our next phase here, we are creating committees. And once you get everybody on Zoom calls from all across your state in different counties, then you can start saying to them, okay, we need a fundraising committee for America First candidates. We need a graphics committee. You know, we formed a graphics committee where we have several great graphics people. And now we're combining our efforts with Rhino Removal Project, who they have fantastic graphics people. And so if a candidate in a county across the state from me needs help, and they have a member of APEC in their county, their member would reach out to our coalition and say, okay, so-and-so candidate is up against a Rhino candidate, and so we need MAGA to win here. Then we're all going to get behind them. We're going to get our graphics committee to make flyers for the candidate, to do our social media committee to start spreading the word about the candidate. You see, it's force multiplying. That's the key that the left has that we don't have. And what's the big advantage that MAGA has in every state over the GOP? Can you think of that, Trixie? The GOP has the money.
I would say the grassroots activation is what I would think. Because you're able,
yes, has the energy. We were the ones doing the precinct committee work, right?
Yeah. When you get enough outrage in people, you're going to get action out of them. And I think the more you get your message out and keep hammering it home over and over and over, you're going to get them fired up enough to really want to do something about it. The complacency is what really killed us. You know, too many people just figured Trump won and he's got it, and it don't work that way.
Same thing happened here. You know, I go speak at all these Republican clubs and whatnot, and the attendance has dwindled. And if people aren't fired up now, it's going to take, it's going to be ugly what's coming. That's going to fire them up.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, you know, and the one problematic thing too is if you notice the FEMA camps are still funded. So they're set up so that if they do ever take power over again, it's going to be immediate when they come through. It's not going to be 6 months, 7 months. No, it's going to be right after a big election like that. That's when they'll start cleaning up. And that's what's really scary. People don't realize it. They think it wouldn't happen, but it will.
It will. I researched FEMA camps through executive orders going all the way back to, I think, if I remember, it was Eisenhower. It might have been Kennedy, but well-intentioned, you know, but they set up these camps, and so they're there, and nothing's changed in those executive orders. So they can be utilized by any president. Right now, we're fortunate to have Trump, but yes.
Yeah, they just have to have write an executive order as a national emergency, and they've got the legal standing where a judge won't, you know, they won't throw it out. But at that point, will it even be legal? They won't care, because they don't care now. You know, the judges are activists, so they've always got that on their side too.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do, but where we can consolidate our work is by just looking at our own backyards, because then otherwise it becomes way too overwhelming.
100% right.
Everybody, go ahead, George. Sorry.
No, I'm saying, Kat, you're right. Everybody thinks because Trump won, everything is fine. A lot of people are sitting back. Everybody's being complicit. It's very hard for me to get people to come out anymore. It's like unbelievable. I'm going to have that meeting, and I'm going to see what come out. They got to wake these people up because it's unbelievable. You know, we're not. It's not only the RINOs. We got Muslims coming in. We got all this shit happening here like crazy, and they're trying to take over the United States little by little. They're coming in. You know, they're like roaches, and we don't have the bug spray to kill these people.
Cucarachas.
That's true. And Tampa, boy, to see the map of Tampa Islamic centers popping up, it's unreal.
They try to do Vero Beach. They would try to put a big Muslim community there. They're going to do one in Kissimmee too. This company, American company that's owned by the Muslims and Chinese, they bought the property and they want to put these community centers in. You know,
it's going to be to the death of us if people don't wake up. It's slowly creeping. You know, I wrote one of my chapters in my first book was called Viva la Revolución. And it was all about, that's the second chapter, was all about Venezuela.
Yep.
And you know, that was 6 years ago, right? And Venezuela, of course, I talked about how did they get control of their guns, folks? How do you think they did it? The first thing they did was pack their Supreme Court. I think they had 11 Supreme Court justices, and they added another 19. So they ended up with about 30 Supreme Court, all liberals. So, and we're seeing that play out in our court system today, not necessarily, well, the Supreme Court is not anything I'd brag about, but this is how they insidiously get to the point of, and people tell me all the time, they're not going to take my guns from my cold, dead fingers. How many times have we heard that? But you know what happened in Venezuela? The Supreme Court passed a law that you would do 20 years hard labor if you did not turn your guns in.
Mm-hmm.
Who is going to not abide by that? Only the strongest, courageous patriots amongst us. Yeah. Everybody else is just going to hand them over.
Yeah. Or they're going to say they had a fishing accident and it fell in the lake when they were out fishing. I mean, I hear that one all the time too. Oh, I dropped it in the lake. You know, there's a lot of people that would try to do that, but yeah, I don't know. I still think that there's going to be a lot of people that if we don't stand, you know, back against the RINOs, we're going to see the Uniparty really take over, and they're not going to help us at all.
There's going to be a definite revolution. Trust me, I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
These people
yeah, here in Florida, by the way.
What?
I lost all my guns and my ammo, and it was heartbreaking. In the 3 hurricanes I got hit with not last year, but the year before, flooded big time, and ammo does not survive seawater. I found out, but no, there will be no excuses, folks. I mean, the time is coming down, and I am quite certain that Trump would want all of us to get active in our county levels. So today we're going to be, you know, and by the way, people are asking me, well, poor Laura Trump, you know, does she even know she's walking into this trap of helping the RINOs after they've destroyed MAGA in that county? And I want everybody to know this. We overnighted her a letter last week and told her the situation, the whole situation. And we included the petitions that we had collected by that point of people who had been purged from the Republican Party. And so she should be aware of it. I'm hoping that she is. We don't want to hurt her. We don't want to hurt our president for sure. But if somebody doesn't call this out and call out Evan Power, who now, by the way, is stepping down and running for Congress.
Yep.
Right.
Radley gave him $100,000 for his campaign.
In Vern Buchanan's, another RINO, you know, guys, we have to wake up. Who do you trust? Let me answer that question for people who are wondering, how do you know if it's a RINO or versus an America Firster? You know, because who do you know is an America Firster? Okay, I can't tell you how many people come to me or George to find out who they should vote for. That's who you trust. The people who are on the ground, the America Firsters, the MAGA people who know the ground level, who know what's really happening out there. Come and ask us. We'll tell you. And our APEC, another thing that we're going to be doing is when an America First candidate runs and we get word of it against a RINO, we're going to be having multiple press conferences simultaneously across our entire state. So all of our members different areas of the state will hold a press conference and we'll all announce this person's name. We're
You
going
gotta
to
look
put a
at-
spotlight
you gotta
on
look
them.
at- yeah, right. 100% right, Kat. We got to look at their voting records, what they vote on, what they do, what they decide on. I mean, I
Right.
investigate anybody I endorse. You know for a fact. I investigate them like unbelievable. I will not endorse just because I throw my endorsements. And a lot of times I voted for the endorsed the underdog because I know who the rhinos are. I've been up in Tallahassee. They terrified me when I go up to Tallahassee. They know me.
Yeah.
I don't pull no shit.
Yeah.
I've been up there
Thank
fighting
God for
insurance companies.
your whole group, George, has been wonderful at all of our functions, and
Yep.
to see you is just it's a calming factor, I must tell you. So we really appreciate your presence.
I'm gonna try to get there because I got somebody coming here, but if they get
We
out of
would
here,
love it if you do.
No, I will. I'm gonna talk to Alan too. See both of us come.
Thank
I see
you.
both of them down here.
Yeah, everybody out there who lives even remotely close, even if this isn't going to happen again. This is the first time Laura Trump is going to hear from us. So wear your MAGA gear, warm MAGA gear. It's cold here for Florida. And bring water, bring signs. We have signs that are fabulous. I think I sent you one of those signs. Can you put that up? Did you get that, George, with the RPOF hates MAGA stomping with the
No, I didn't see that one. Is it on your page?
I did text it to you, so I probably should have emailed these to you. I didn't.
Oh, did you text it to me? I'll find. Hold on.
Yeah, you should have them in your text. Yesterday, after we spoke, I'm pretty sure I did. Because I was hoping that you get this stuff out. This was so timely when you called me. I was like, there's no way I have time to do anything today because we got so much going on with the press conference. But then I thought, oh my gosh, you're live? Okay, let's get people, riled up and out there. If you wondered what to do, the viewer who wrote in, if you live anywhere close to, even if you live across the state, what better way to send a signal to our rhinos in this state that we've had enough. Because look, if we don't stop them in their rhino tracks here, then they just keep moving up, and get more powerful. And so that everybody knows, our chairman, Evan Power, literally sits on the board of directors of one of the biggest lobbying groups in Florida, and that's Ramba Consulting. And Ramba Consulting, one of their clients is the FSE, the Florida Supervisor of Elections, who control all of our supervisors of elections. So imagine, because our SOE, Supervisor of Elections here in Florida, they are pushing for mail-in ballots. Yep. They're pushing for 100%, not just the 60% that we now
put that up. There goes quick. I'm quick.
Yeah, I was watching for it.
Thank you, George. What's that, Trixie?
I was watching for him to put it up, so I could see it on the bottom to put it up.
So think about that, folks. Our own Florida GOP is connected with the lobbying group who's pushing for mail-in ballots that our own President Trump is pushing to stop. Does that make any sense to anybody? For God's sakes, let's call them out. It's so common sense and so obvious. But see, by using people like Laura Trump, they give themselves the appearance of being MAGA. Mm-hmm. Back when I just had my first book, and when it first came out, the RPOF literally invited me to be a keynote speaker to an RPOF annual meeting in front of the 67 REC chairman. Imagine that. As much as I'm targeted today. But you know why they did that? I look back on that now and I realize because I was known as the deplorable author. And that gave them legitimacy, that they would literally have the girl from the deplorable book show up and speak. It was a novelty to them, even though my book is quite serious about the Alinsky tactics and everything, and goes and has 400 footnotes, you know, that really will give people a great education on it. That's why they use me, just like they're using Laura Trump now.
Mhm.
And I can see it so clearly. And if she really knew the truth, she'd be furious. And
Yeah.
I hope she finds the truth out. They got to not like the fact we're having a press conference in their face.
All right, Kat, we ran out of time really, but
think
thanks again. We'll have you back again. Appreciate you. I'm going to try to get to you today.
I'd love you, George, and everything you do here for Florida and for the president. And Trixie, it was wonderful to meet you, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Have me back on after, and I'll tell you all about it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, we're going to raid Mike Schwartz and tomorrow's Frisky Friday. So be here or be square. That's all.
Hope everybody enjoyed that. We're going to raid Mike, what do you call the show? Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. I got to try to get to that rally. I got to get a couple of people.
Yeah.
I wish I had the bike.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow for Frisky Friday.
Tomorrow I see the doctor. Try to
Till the
finish
whole
up right away.
damn room learns what I said. Protect what's mine, that's a blood-borne vow. Say a word wrong, you'll find out now. I'll burn this bitch down, don't test my flame. You play with hellfire, you say my name. You come for my people, I'll take your crown. I swear to God, I'll burn this bitch down. I'll burn this bitch down, leave nothing behind.
3,
Put me too
2,
far, I'll lose my
1.
mind. You want that smoke, I'll bring that sound. One last chance before I burn this bitch down. I don't bluff, motherfucker, I take the shot. I don't fight fair, I fight